Hello everyone, welcome to round 8 of the Magic the Gathering World Championship. Rich Hagan, Zach Hill with you to watch Brian Kibler up against Ben Stark. Why don't we meet the two players?
Brian Kibler, United States. 54 pro points last season, playing green-red aggro in Standard, playing green-white Aether Vial in Modern.
Ben Stark, United States, 61 pro points last season, playing red-blue-white in Standard and red-blue-white in Modern.
That'll be two Pro Tour Hall of Famers then, getting ready to square off at 5 and 2 here. Remember that round about 8 and 4 is where you start thinking, is one of the top 4 seats, do they have my name on it? Here we go with Stark against Kibler. Kibler will be on the left. There you see him, the Dragon Master. He leads off with a forest, and it's a mountain for Ben Stark, who is going to be on the right of screen as you look. Turn 2, Child of Night. That's the best possible turn for a Child of Night to come out when potentially it will get in unmolested. But Young Pyromancer comes down for Ben Stark on turn 2 off a couple of mountains. And there you see, it is mountains all the way for Ben Stark in his hand. Red, 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 red.
Yeah, it looks like by the look of his hand, he might be playing mono red. Kibler quickly offering the trade for Child of Night for Young Pyromancer. Misses his third land drop, but I really was hoping, I think, to have the opportunity to giant growth that Child of Night. Now, interestingly, does not cast the Predatory Sliver that we know is in his hand.
Okay.
On the second turn.
Academy Raider comes down for Ben Stark after the Young Pyromancer attacks back the other way. The Child of Night will come in. You're going to see the life totals bounce around a bit while that Child of Night is busy in play and attacking. You take a look at Kibler's hand. There, Tenacious Dead, Child Knight, Predatory Sliver, Quag Sickness, Giant Growth, Hunt the Weak, and the big removal spell with the 3 mana coming back to you, Liturgy of Blood.
And again, Kibler electing not to cast the Tenacious Dead, holding up Giant Growth mana in order to hold up 1B.
That's not a good sign.
I think he just values that Child of Night very heavily. I mean, against a mono-red deck, having 2 extra life a turn is almost like a free removal spell.
So you've got the Young Pyromancer and Academy Raider, and as Zach said, the players are busy chattering away. Hope you can hear some of that on your microphones. Dragon Hatchling there, about to come down by the looks of things for Ben, and he's like, am I going to play that? And no, going to get rid of that. That goes away. Off the Academy Raider. That's where he decided to lose in exchange for a different card. And now we have a big bad beater coming down.
Now we see multiple Flames of the Firebrand in Ben's hand. Again, Brian gets to look at... okay, I'm informed actually Ben Stark's not mono red. He just has all red cards in his hand. Just drew a black card. We see Flames of the Firebrand being cast. Now, we know that Kibler knows about those flames, which is probably why he wasn't committing anything else to the board.
I mean, that is incredible patience from Kibler. I mean, that you said that he hasn't played it, he hasn't played it, he hasn't played it. That was 3 turns right there. Right,
and only elected to play it when he could save one of the cards with Giant Growth. Again, his Child of Night really keeping him in the game right now. Missed several land drops, but is finally willing to trade with the Marauders and gain a lot of life thanks to that Giant Growth.
Yeah, the Marauding Maulhorn, which is quite a mouthful and quite a beater, 5-3.
That turn could, I mean, given that you're never excited to have Flames of the Firebrand cast against you, that turn could have gone a lot worse for Brian.
And also, the strange thing is that on the face of it, you would think, if you look at the board, that Ben Stark has been ahead in this game pretty much throughout, and yet the life totals are very much the way of Brian Kibler. And as we now know, Ben Stark is not mono-red. He has swamps in his deck. And actually, there goes Deathgaze Cockatrice onto the table for Kibler, and Kibler's doing just fine, thank you. And that, remember, goes all the way back to that turn 2 Child of Night, which has really defined the early part of this match.
And again, with Marauding Maulhorn having to attack, Kibler was able to set up quite a big life swing and quite an effective countermeasure to the first Flames. We'll of course have to see if he can play around the second one quite as well.
He may not have to, because this looks like a third swamp, and he may just choose to Quag Sickness here. We'll see whether he does, and okay, it's the Liturgy of Blood, and it's going to go for the well-known let's get multiple things dead. The Liturgy of Blood, as we set up earlier in the game, gives him 3 mana back, and he uses that 3 to Quag Sickness away the Academy Raider, so no more, essentially, looting ability for Ben Stark, where he gets to discard a card and then draw. Reverse loot, if you will.
And it's really easy to underrate the power of looting. I mean, but Ben can get rid of the black cards he can't cast. I mean, it's not card advantage, but it's card selection. That's really important when you're missing a key component of your deck like Ben is right now.
We have a game result in, and it is at the very top table. In blistering fashion, Reed Duke leads Shahar Shenhar by 1-0.
We see a Prey on the Week there, allowing...
Hunt the Week.
Hunt the Week, allowing the 2/2 Death Touch Flyer to start attacking for 3 in the air, and Kibler able to capitalize on his substantial life advantage here.
Yeah, prey upon's big brother.
Yeah. It's like you're preying upon it, but you're growing a little bit. You're a growing boy. You need some food.
14.
So 14?
50,
50
You're at
is the
19,
light
right?
total there. Just checking how that works out. You see Regathon Firecat coming down. Fire Fiend?
I think it's Firecat.
Yeah.
It's a kitty. But we see, meow. Ben really wanting access to black mana right now. Both the Vampire Warlord in his hand and the Gnawing Zombie would allow him to sacrifice that Pitchburn Devils to get the, what is that, a Cockatrice? What is the
Deathgaze Cockatrice?
Yeah, get the Cockatrice off the board. But without black mana, he doesn't get to have any of those sack outlets. So Ben still remaining in this game, able to contribute a decent-sized offense. But you've got to think he wants to have access to a swamp right now.
What do you make of Vampire Warlord as a card in M14, Zach?
I actually really like it. I think there's enough to do with sacrifice effects, obviously the best of them being Act of Treason, but yeah, really several things to go around that I think it's a solid outlet, and it's very easy to allow the Warlord to trade your worst creature for their best creature.
Okay.
You're clearly not excited about spending 5 mana for a 4/2, but that 4/2 has significant upside.
Tenacious Dead and Trollhide then for Kibler as the game advances towards the back end of the middle, we might say, right now, and Stark continues to look for black mana. Tenacious Dead comes down. Deathgaze Cockatrice sits there as 3/3, and now here is Trollhide going on to the Deathgaze Cockatrice. Kibler still has the mana available to regenerate his massive now Death Touch Flyer. Costs 2 mana to regenerate off the Trollhide, and it gives +2/+2. So 5/5 flying right now with the ability to regenerate. And that has been kind of sitting back, and he's not looking terribly happy. It looks like he's just going to pass the turn. You see more Mountain in hand, and just that Flames of the Firebrand of castable use currently in hand for Ben Stark. 15-11 down here.
Now we see Kibler kind of D'ing up with that Cockatrice. He's looking like he might attack this turn. Didn't attack last turn. 11, a really awkward life total for Stark to be at from Kibler's perspective, because that means 3 attacks, not 2 attacks from the Cockatrice to end the game.
Now, we have seen that a swamp has entered Ben Stark's hand. Let's see if it's all far too late or whether he has the capacity now to mount something here.
Can we attack the turn before? We'll certainly have to draw.
I don't think I have anything in this spot, Ben says.
And he's going through the reasoning. He's like, why did Kibler attack on the second turn, but not the first turn? Okay, that must mean Kibler drew something. Of course, Kibler's slow-rolling a land, but he knows that Ben is going to be thinking about why he did that. So there's a decent mind game going on right here. And that is a very risky attack for Kibler, because if Stark uses his flames, 2 damage from the flames essentially taps the dead, 4 damage from Firecat, 3 damage from Pitchburn Devils.
I shouldn't have Pyrokinesis when I did, because you obviously had Giant Growth.
Shouldn't have Pyrokinesis
Obviously
when I
had
did.
Giant Growth, he says. Yeah. But still, Ben able to force through a lot of damage right here.
Could have preserved it.
I think he can deal 13 this turn if he wanted to, or 13 between this and the next turn. 13, unfortunately, is not 15. But yeah, Brian, I mean, it is true that Kibler was telegraphing that Giant Growth. At the same time, it's hard to not bite when your opponent's as stalled on land as Kibler was.
Yeah, so shoot 1 to you.
This is exactly what we were talking about.
Just already getting ready to concede to the prior calculation you had to have. Let me think about whether it makes more sense to sign a 1/1 or not. Then obviously you can still have it, but that's irrelevant still.
The way that Ben is talking about this, he said yesterday, we have a lovely package at lunchtime today, rounding up some of the great tweets from around the world from yesterday. And one of them was referencing a quote that Ben S. said was, one of the reasons I like to teach people is that I want them to be good so that we can have these kind of conversations, essentially, in play.
Right.
There's the Gnawing Zombie. Ben has piled in. Kibler draws. You hear the distinctive clack of the cards.
How I miss it. The swooshing Kibler noises. So how much? He hit for, what, 4, 7, 8, 10 total damage last turn. And all of a sudden, this could be a different game.
Indeed, Kibler is down to 5. He's got an Altar's Reap in hand to go with the Swamp. So he will have to sacrifice a creature in order to draw 2 cards.
And that normally a very good combination with the what is the different reassembling skeleton? What is it called?
Oh, Tenacious Dead?
So a Tenacious Dead, yeah, a very Tenacious Dead guy keeps coming back. Normally a great combination with Altar's Reap, but you really don't want to tap that Tenacious Dead this turn. At the same time, he kind of needs some cards because just fighting against what's on the board is not looking very good for you right now. You know he can sacrifice the Pitchburn Devils, and you don't have enough blockers for all of his attackers.
You're looking at the 4 leaders in the players in the World Championship right now. Kibler and Stark, and in the background was Reed Duke and Shahar Shenhar, with Reed Duke 1-0 up in that match. We also had Craig Wesker we caught a glimpse of earlier on. He's playing against Yuya Watanabe of Japan, the defending champion. And Watanabe has taken the opening game in that one. They are currently both on 4 and 3. The winner here will certainly see that the top 4 is within their grasp. The loser here at 4 and 4 will think it's a rocky old road from here to the finish, but not yet impossible.
So what you're seeing right now, Kibler knows he has to do something, because even if he blocks both of Ben's biggest creatures, he takes 2 from the zombie and the token, plus 3 from the sacrifice Pitchburn Devils is 5. Also, Gnawing Zombie itself makes Kibler lose life. So he is dead on board right now if he cannot draw into something.
It is Altar's Reap, is what it is.
Well, you have to do it.
I know.
It is Altar's Reap. You got to do it.
I can draw. I think we just let him die, because he doesn't really do anything at this point.
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking.
Gonna just let him die. It's like DVD commentary while the match is happening.
And that's what's such a joy about watching these players, is that they have such command of this format that they know what's going on.
I guess maybe I shouldn't tell you I can kill you, but I'd assume.
No, I'd figured that part out.
No, I know you
It's
know
like-
that. I'm saying if you think maybe I don't realize it's
Right,
maybe
no.
you don't make that play to try and kill me.
Yeah, no.
I don't think you put me on brain dead. So. I even thought you probably had Giant Growth the way you played it, but I just
I'd already cast Giant Growth.
No. On that
before,
turn.
sure,
But
yeah.
since it was still a 2-for-1, I didn't really consider playing around it. I was like, whatever, who cares? He can Giant Growth here. But I shouldn't have played. It was a bad play. I knew you were missing land jumps, and then you played a 2-2 for 2 with 1 open. But I put it on like 90%. You had it.
Looking to ignite your competitive spark? Take your game to a Grand Prix and see how you fare against the best players in your region, as well as top visiting Magic pros. Upcoming Grand Prix include Warsaw, Oakland, Kitakyushu, and Prague. For more information, visit wizards.com/Grand Prix. Yeah, there's some great venues. Warsaw and Prague are 2 terrific European cities. Been to Oakland before. Haven't done Kitakyushu yet.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's still time.
Yeah, there you go.
There you see Ben Stark with his $163,000 lifetime career winnings. He is, of course, a member of the Pro Tour Hall of Fame. 4 Pro Tour top 8s to his name, closing in on 250 match wins at the Pro Tour level and closing in on 500 match wins at Grand Prix, where he is truly among the elite. 10 top 8s, a win percentage of 65%. Most notable title, of course, Pro Tour Paris in 2011. Arguably the absolute pinnacle of the Channel Fireball era, when they brought Core Blade and they just played each other down the stretch. It was almost like there was no one else in the building.
The game extremely well.
It was one of the most dominant decks of all time. A really impressive Pro
The
Tour.
only thing I'm curious about is what changed. Like, why didn't you attack the previous turn at the end?
I'm not sure.
So these two at 5-2,
If you
of course,
had, like something that turn, felt like it
aiming
was,
to go
you know,
to 6-2, and the loser will be 5-3. But in the Wesco Watanabe match, that is currently, they are both 4-3, and it's the winner there that will be looking to get to 5-3.
You hear Kibler right now talking about, Stark asks, hey, so what changed? Why did you attack with that card, with the Cockatrice that one turn, but didn't the turn before? And Kibler's like, I don't really know. I felt like if you had something, you'd have used it. So I had a window, I had an extra card, I had more mana. But, I mean, sometimes you just really do have to kind of go with the way things feel, go with how you think your opponent's going to react. Cause,
you had the flames?
He had to do something.
So if I'd attacked the previous turn, it just ends up going the same.
Right, it ends up going the same way.
Right, yeah.
But you can't find out if I have the flames or anything.
No, I know. Yeah.
Unless your draw step is that much better than mine, which I don't think it is.
Right,
What's
yeah.
the benefit to it?
So there you see Brian Kibler's stats on the right of your screen, also a member of the Hall of Fame. Technically, of course, Ben Stark not a member of the Hall of Fame yet. We call him Hall of Fame elect. He will collect his fabulous ring. If you ever get a chance to meet a Hall of Famer when they have the ring with them, you should really check them out. They're phenomenal things.
What changed? I mean, I didn't even know whether you should attack or shouldn't attack. I just, when you didn't and then you did, I was like, well, I guess you have alpha, but I can't beat alpha, so I'm just dead to it next turn anyway. So.
It's amazing how many of these guys' Pro Tour win percentage hovers around like 59%. I think we've seen that like 3 separate times. I mean, that's almost like the magic number.
Yeah, so like I say, if you can crack 60 at a Pro Tour, something pretty awesome is going on in your life. Because the thing is, you have to remember that you get to the back end of a Pro Tour, you're playing all the other guys who are in contention. And so you sit there and you think, well, okay, my last 3 rounds are Martin User, Eric Froelich, and then Owen Turtenwald, and they're the 3 people you play in order to make the top 8. So if you 2-1 those 3 rounds, that's 66%. But in order to get there, you're at 10-3, and it's just so tough. Because every time you go 2-4, well, that's a 33% win rate. So to get to 60 is just utterly huge.
And it's, you know, you're sitting there thinking, like, is that, okay, you only win 6 out of 10 of your matches? But that's not true. You win 6 out of 10 of your matches against the best players in the world. And that is an altogether different story from winning your local Friday night Magic.
That is certainly true. Big news. The table number 1 is done, and it is Reed Duke who advances to 7-1. He is within touching distance of making his way into the final 4 of the World Championship. Shahar Shenhar, his second reversal. Shahar Shenhar is at 6-2.
Man, it's kind of incredible seeing these really young guys, these up-and-comers, dominate this tournament. I mean, it just goes to show how much talent's in the room.
I drew in the last round to like lock this. Because if I had lost, it was possible that Mihara could have like beaten me if he got second. Yeah, and I was just like, I don't care about the the pro points.
Yeah, of course.
Or,
if it locks this, that's what
or like the $500 or the $5,000 or whatever. Like the difference is like $2,500 or.
11 Grand Prix top 8s for Brian Kibler. He has a 63% win rate there.
I drew with him in the top 25.
And you see just a vast number of games as well. You're closing in on the best part of just over 600 games for Brian Kibler at the Pro Tour level with his 5 top 8s. Of course, champion of Austin and last year, Honolulu.
At the end of the day, I mean, we have pretty good careers. What's one more top 16 versus one more top 32? But locking up this is very important. Yeah. This is a super sweet tournament.
This is a super sweet tournament, says Ben S, and he's not wrong. In the background, you see Reed Duke. He is finished against Shahar Shenhar. Just off to the right of screen, you see Li Shichan of Hong Kong. He is up against David Ochoa. Li Shichan was 3-4 coming into this round. Ochoa pretty much dead, we think, at 2-5. The best he can manage now is 7-5. And remember, we have cumulative tiebreak, which, in the simplest terms possible, the quicker you get to any given number of wins, the better it is for you, in simple terms. So if you get to 5 wins and it takes you 5 rounds to get there, and you get to 5 wins and it takes you 8 rounds to get there, it's the player who got there in 5 rounds that is ahead on tiebreaks, because you won early and often.
And that is what this tournament structure rewards. I mean, that said, we're talking about players drawing debt, but as we mentioned earlier, it's worth reiterating that every single one of these matches matters, because every single one of these matches is worth pro points. It's like the Skins Game Pro Tour back at Pro Tour Philadelphia. And what that means is that there's no point in which you're just off the map.
$200.
Totally forgot.
Yeah, I remember
$200.
that.
I won.
A couple times and then put it down.
Yeah.
I only won one match at that Pro Tour, so I don't know that I have too fond a memory of that structure, but that is certainly how it worked.
So here we go with game 2. Stark won to the good. He found his swamp.
Okay.
He got to pile cards in eventually. And Kibler very patient in the early game. Stark has a very quick mulligan. And I'm looking at a hand of plenty of land for Kibler. Looks like he might...
It only matters if you
This might be as many as a 5-land hand plus a giant growth and a Child of Night. That is, I believe, his opening hand. And it looks like he's still thinking about this one.
Well, that one has 0 lands.
What do you reckon, Zach?
That was pretty
Giant?
Yeah,
I mean, I think he's keeping it, given that Stark's mulliganing. It's not
Okay.
like the most exciting hand, but Child of Night is very good in this matchup. Giant Growth, very, very good. Helps counterbalance those removal spells. Again, good with Child of Night, as we saw in the last game, gaining you just a ton of life.
I mean, if you're dealing with a beginner player, if you were giving them some sort of basic mulligan guides, you would say be careful of the 5-land hand, because you absolutely open yourself out to flood.
And definitely, like, 5-land hands are the hands that I lose with the most, because it's hard to mulligan. Like, 5-land, you've got both your colors, you have early action. It's, like, really hard to mulligan, but you are just almost down a card already due to how many lands you've drawn. You know, one of those lands is just likely to become blank at some point in the game. So 5-land hands can be risky. On the other hand, you know, sometimes they're better than 6 random cards, especially with your best 2-drop in play.
So we have Child of Night on the left for Brian Kibler and Dragon Hatchling on the right for Ben Stark. Stark has an Academy Raider in hand, amongst other things, getting ready to go. The Child of Night comes in. Obviously, the Dragon Hatchling will not block because there's no mana available to pump. And Ben Stark will presumably not block with the Dragon Hatchling this time, but he may block with another dragon themed against the Dragon Master. It's the Dragon Egg, which, when it dies, will get him a flyer, which also pumps, as we say, giving it +1/+0. There you see Academy Raider. The Intimidate 1/1 for 3. We're going to see that pretty soon from Ben Stark, one would think, because it's obviously very good against Kibler's green-black deck. Predatory Sliver next from Brian Kibler. These two are playing pretty quickly here in game 2. No time pressure particularly. They're just getting on with things as we see Marauding Maulhorn. 5/3 for 4 mana from Ben Stark, who's 24-18 behind, and it is going to be sent away by Liturgy of Blood. No use for the 3 mana from Kibler, but he does get to pile in again with the Child of Night and the Predatory Sliver.
And Child of Night is exactly what you want to have against a card like Dragon Hatchling. I mean, Dragon just essentially lets you funnel mana into damage, but it can't trade with the Child of Night, and Child of Night is getting your life total back up to where it needs to be. Hatchling also not very great in concert with another fire-breathing card, which already allows you to use your red mana effectively. So Hatchling, very close to a totally dead card for Stark right here.
Gigantic? No, I don't have Gigantic.
So the Dragon Egg has indeed become a dragon. It's hatched.
And we can look at Dragon Egg. See, it's just an 0/2. Defense doesn't do a whole lot. What you're really trying to do is get this card to die, and that's exactly what happened in this match.
Yeah, he managed that just fine. Academy Raider, we think it's going to come down. There it is. Leaving Stark with 2 mountains and Act of Treason. Act of Treason, a terrific finisher, but not a lot of much else going on for Stark right now. And again, although he only has 5 swamps in his deck, he is shy of either black mana or indeed black spells. I can tell you that Yuya Watanabe has completed victory over Craig Wesco, and so the Watanabe train continues apace. He is now up to 5 wins, 5-3. Wesco, he will remain on 12 points. That is 4-4 with 1 round of M14 to go for both of them.
So we see the Dragon token stepping in front of Child of Night. Kibler accepts the trade. I would have probably expected, given the efficacy of Child of Night in this game, for the Giant Growth to have taken it away and Kibler have capitalized on that opportunity to gain life. What this does is now open up the Dragon Hatchling as a live card, and Academy Raider now going to get to work gaining Ben Stark some advantage. What Ben has to do now is preserve his 12 life points, but I'm a little surprised to see Kibler let that Child of Night go, given how good it's been in these last couple of games.
There you see Pitchburn Devils, and you saw that the mountain, you just saw the Academy Raider at work as the mountain goes away, discarded, don't need that anymore, draw something useful, down comes Pitchburn Devils. And Stark, 25-12 behind, but in pretty good shape on the board right now.
Now we see a wild Ricochet in Stark's hand. What that means essentially is that if Kibler ever casts a removal spell, things might go very, very bad for him very quickly. Ricochet, of course, copies the spell and then forks it, or sorry, it redirects a spell and then copies it. So not only do you get to change around a target, you then get to do your own thing again. So
yeah, there's a lot going on with Wild Ricochet. It isn't fairly calm Ricochet. It is wild.
So it's a very narrow, very situational, but very high upside card as well.
You see a Thunder Strike on the right of screen there to go with the Act of Treason and Wild Ricochet. All spells, all red. And in a way, that suits Ben Stark fine because he has no access to black right now.
And you see him discard Wild Ricochet, which is a relevant piece of information for Kibler, just knowing that that card is in Stark's list post-sideboard. But really, this game is honestly all about Academy Raider. I mean, Stark was flooding out just a little bit, didn't really have a lot of velocity, but Raider has allowed him to smooth those draws out tremendously, commit a Pitchburn Devils to the board, and really have a handful of threats at this point.
Someone else who hasn't had a ton of velocity this weekend is Martin User, and he has had an 8th successive loss. Shuhei Nakamura defeats him, goes to 3-5. So Nakamura heading potentially towards 6-6, 7-5, somewhere like that if he does well over the back stretch, but probably that will not be enough for a top 4. Kibler 19, Stark 12, and both players with not a ton going on. Couple of land and a giant growth for Kibler, and as we know, that Act of Treason waiting in the wings for Ben Stark, but he is a long way off being able to cast that and use it profitably as a finisher.
Yeah, Stark definitely wanting to get a sack outlet in on that Act of Treason as well, just to turn it into a removal spell. Right now, Kibler, I think, just trying to get some value out of his giant growth. The 5-land keep really kind of punishing him here. He just doesn't really have a lot going on. He's only drawn 5 total non-land spells this match, but we see Stark here agonizing over whether or not to block.
Has Thunderstrike. Has Seismic Stomp.
How do I change the card? I want to hit the button, but I don't know how to change the
card. So, Pitchburn Devils will get in the way. Giant growth.
We'll worry about it later.
So,
I suppose it doesn't really matter which one of those I deal 3 to, right?
I suppose it doesn't matter what I deal 3 to, says Ben. And the Predatory Sliver bites the dust. So we're back with Ben Stark. Still got the Hatchling, still got that Academy Raider, which, as Zach just told you, is such a big deal in this matchup right now.
Yeah, I mean, especially given that Kibler has no red creatures. I mean, the 1 damage return is not irrelevant, but mainly it's just allowing Stark to sculpt exactly what his draws want to be. And again, with Hatchling live, I mean, he's starting to deal damage, some pretty big chunks. Downside, of course, being at 10 life, he can only take a few hits from the Vampire.
Dmitry Budakov, congratulations to him. He has another win, and he is now up to 4 wins, so he has an even record. Eric Froelich has lost that one, so he is now at 3-5. More results coming in. Josh Utter-Leighton has defeated Tom Martell by 2-1. So Josh Utter-Leighton, after a rocky start, he's up to 5 wins, 5-3. Tom Martell stays with 3 wins, 3-5, and that pretty much, we think, eliminates him from contention. But at 5-3, Josh Utter-Leighton, your reigning player of the year, very much in there as Goblin Diplomats comes down here in our main feature match. Start at 6. Kibler at 12, and there's the handshake. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, no, you actually did.
Yeah, I have Act of Treason. Let's listen in.
Right.
But yeah, no, that just gets me. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I way outdrew you down the stretch.
Oh, but I mean, I
it was like a good game.
11 land or something.
Yeah. Definitely a good game, and then you just drew all lands.
Stark being kind of polite, saying he outdrew Kibler. He was, of course, drawing 2 cards a turn, which makes it a little bit easier to outdraw your opponents.
I felt like I couldn't just sit there and let you fireball me every turn. Like, you know, I want to actually
Hello everyone, welcome back to the booth. Rich Hagen, Zach Hill with you here in the middle round, remember, of M14 draft. The matches that are coming in, Craig Wesco now at 4-4 because Yuya Watanabe is now up to 5-3. Eric Froelich 3-5. Dmitry Budakov. I think this 4-4 for him quietly is a big achievement for the guy from Siberia, the MOX champion. Everyone obviously placed him in number 16 because we didn't know anything about him, and that's just the natural response. Like, who is this guy? He's never played a Pro Tour, never played a GP, you know, 0 lifetime pro points, and he's 4-4 in a terrific field. And I think that's a terrific performance by him. Good luck to him over the last 4 rounds. Don't know about Idle and Sifka right now. Josh Utter-Layton up to 5-3. Tom Martell, we think, right in trouble at 3-5 now. Ben Stark, Brian Kibler, you've just watched that one. Ben Stark back on the winning trail. Idle and Sifka are, in fact, still playing, I hear. So Ben Stark advances to 6 wins and 2 losses. Then you have Shahar Shenhart and Reed Duke. That was the big matchup. You'll be able to read all about that in the text coverage, but the key headline from that, of course, is that Shahar lost 6-2, Reed Duke 7-1, and then Shuhei Nakamura 3-5. Martin Hughes is still looking for that first pro point. But here's the story. Let's go back to last year. Reed Duke 2-10. I had a chat with Reed off on the side at the Showbox in Seattle where this tournament was held last year. And halfway through day 2, of course, he was long gone from contention. And I said to him, in the next 2 hours, your future could be determined in this game because you are one of only 16 players in the world who can get pro points over the next 2 hours. And if you get 1 or 2 pro points, there is going to be a round somewhere, sometime, where finishing top 16 or top 32 or top 8 is going to put you to where you need to be. And ultimately, in the very last round of Worlds, he gets platinum. Let's head down to the floor. We're going to head it down to Sheldon Menery, who has one of our players ready for words of wisdom.
Turn which one?
Hey, Sheldon Menery down here in the feature match pit with Hall of Famer Ben Stark.
Oh, thank you.
So it's starting to be a good weekend. Let's first go back to the first game, and there was sort of an unusual line of play early on.
Yeah, so since we do have deck lists and everything, Brian knew that I had 2 of the Flames of the Firebrand, I believe it's called, the new Arc Lightning. And he played Child Knight, and then he was stuck on 2 lands, and his hand was apparently Giant Growth and Predatory Sliver. And he knows that if he plays a Predatory Sliver, I'm just going to Arc Lightning them, assuming I have it. So instead, if he took for several turns, he just didn't play anything and allowed us to race. And even though it was a race I was winning and he was falling further and further behind, it was much better for him than if he had played it and let me blow him out. And that Giant Growth would have been almost dead after that too. It would have the game would have basically been over if I had it. So then he did draw out of it, and I didn't draw that many great things, and it ended up being a really tight game at the end. And that's a game that I feel like if he just plays that 2-2, which 99% of the people would do, even 75% of the pros would snap to in that spot, even knowing I have the 2 Arc Lightning, because they're going to tell themselves, maybe I don't have the Flames. If I do, and they're probably not going to beat it anyway. So, I think at least 75% of pros, I would have just won that game on turn 3 by killing their 2 guys. And it ended up being a super tight game where I outdrew him by a little bit down the stretch and was able to pull it out.
All right, 6-2, that positioned you relatively well for the top 4. How are you going to approach going into the last 4 rounds?
Well, there's not much to approach. I mean, the thing about Magic is you kind of just play the games. I mean, I've got a pretty good draft deck, but, I know my opponent's deck's usually going to be good in round 3 also. And, I mean, I like our modern deck, although I'm not going to lie, Stanislav Sivka did most of the building of it. So, he's very confident with it, though, and says that it's really good. So I'm looking forward to the modern, and I'm looking forward to the next round.
All right, that's it from the feature match area. I'm Sheldon Menery. He's Ben Stark. We're back to the booth.
Yeah, it's kind of dull, but it's still really true. How do you approach the matches? One at a time. And when I spent a week with Brad Nelson doing the research for the book Grinder, which we did, the number of things where he had no sense of his own narrative at all. There was no, I was 0-3 and I was on the comeback trail. He was just, I played a match, then played another match. There were some wins, there were some losses. Then someone said I could stop playing, so I stopped.
Right, yeah.
We're going to stop because it's the end of round 8 here. We're going to head back to the news desk and we will be back with the last round of M14. It's hotting up here at the World Championship. Don't you dare go away. For now, let's head you back to the news desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the news desk. Marshall Sutcliffe here, and been watching a lot of M14 draft, so we thought we'd go a little bit more in depth. We have our own Luis Scott Vargas at the wall with Shahar Shenhar for an M14 draft tech right now.